Hi, this is Greg Kihlstrom. Welcome to the Agile World podcast, where we discuss customer experience, employee experience, and transformation in an agile age. The Agile World podcast is brought to you by TEKsystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. For more information, go to teksystems.com. To read more about the topics discussed on this show, you can go to my website at theagile.world and read my latest articles or get a copy of my latest book, The Center of Experience, a blueprint for creating an experience-led organization, now available on Amazon and other retailers. This is Greg Kihlstrom with the Agile World podcast. Today I'm going to talk about understanding the voice of the customer. A key aspect of optimizing your customer experience is creating a consumer-centric mindset, both in your organization and throughout the buying process. Doing this requires listening to the customer and really understanding what they want, their feedback about your products and services, as well as their other needs and requirements. We refer to this as the voice of the customer, or VOC. So there's three types of feedback that are incorporated into the voice of the customer, and I'm going to talk about those here now. Similarly, we could take this approach with employees and really call it the voice of the employee. I'm primarily going to talk about customers, but this can definitely apply to employee experience as well. So the first type of feedback is called explicit feedback. This is information and feedback that an organization gathers directly from a customer. It's explicitly related to their experience. So a few examples would be taking a survey, doing direct research, receiving complaints or other feedback through customer service channels. Net Promoter Score, or NPS, might be probably the most common implementation of this. So anytime you are asking for or getting direct feedback from a customer, that's what we refer to as explicit feedback. It's valuable because you're able to see, get this direct contact and hear exactly in the customer's words, in many cases, what their feedback is. The only downside is, as I've experienced in my career and many others share as well, a lot of times the feedback that you're going to get the most is going to be negative, specific negative feedback. It's much less likely that someone will simply write to say, I really like this product. They may, if they're ecstatic about it, they might say something, but it's less likely that you're going to hear written or read written feedback that is, just good or very good or things like that. So it's something to keep in mind, but it is very important to be able to hear customers in their own words talk about your product or service and things like that. The second type of feedback is indirect feedback. So this is information that customers provide or are gathered by third-party channels. So this could be review sites like Yelp or Amazon, could be social media comments or sentiment analysis, or even conversational anecdotes shared during customer service calls or chats. So it's things that aren't specifically recorded by your company, but that are shared on these channels like the ones that I mentioned. We look at a lot of indirect feedback from channels as part of our work. It's a pretty crucial thing. In some ways, places like review sites are a quote unquote safe space to give feedback. So even in the employee experience world, Comparably or Glassdoor are two examples where employees feel a little freer to leave feedback sometimes than they might on their own company's communication channels. It offers a chance for people to voice their concerns or, in some cases, voice great things about the company as well. Same thing with customers. Yelp, Amazon, all of these, Google Maps, all of these types of things allow people to leave feedback. And while not always completely anonymous, it gives them kind of the cover of they don't have to talk directly to the store owner, and yet their feedback gets heard. It's valuable because, consumers will speak differently because these channels are again, a little bit removed and perceived to be neutral. They may not share the full extent of frustrating things directly, but with these places, they feel a little more comfortable. The third kind of feedback and final kind of feedback is implicit feedback. So this is, as its name would suggest, it's not explicit feedback, and therefore it must be inferred based on things that you can measure. So usually it's things that are related to a process, a step in the journey, history. On the customer side, it's their purchase history or how long it takes to complete a process. Unlike explicit feedback, where the metrics are very direct and specific, and the feedback is very specific, often in words. Implicit would include things like how long it takes to complete a process, or the number of steps it takes them to successfully complete a checkout, like an e-commerce checkout or something like that. Implicit feedback generally involves measuring a process that involves several steps and potentially crosses several channels. So, an easy thing to measure would be website traffic or what someone does on your website. But more important would be, how do they get there? What do they do? Again, to use the e-commerce example, does it take them a while to figure out how to check out and purchase something? Or do they have a lot of questions? Do they access your online chat before they do anything? What does it look like? What are you able to, ascertain by seeing and observing their behavior, instead of not necessarily exactly what they're saying, but it's what they're doing and what you can figure out from that. So it looks more holistically at the customer experience or the overall experience, or at the very least an entire step in the larger process, as I mentioned, across different channels, as opposed to explicit feedback, which is really looking at a single data point without a lot of background or reference sometimes. Or it's looking, explicit feedback is looking at specific words used or things like that. Implicit feedback offers a great opportunity to look at the big picture and to optimize. For instance, if you see that, drop off during that e-commerce checkout is increasing over time, you have an issue that can be addressed. You can take small steps, you can optimize it. You can shorten unnecessary fields in a form, for instance, or things like that. Often the feedback that you'll get when you ask someone a question, it may not be so easily solvable. It may be something a little more complex. So using all of these things together is really where the value is. One of them alone, explicit, indirect, or implicit, is not going to give you the full picture. But trying to better understand and tying these things together can really help you understand what you can do, how you can optimize things, and ultimately improve. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next week. Thanks again for listening to the Agile World podcast, brought to you by TEKsystems. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom. You can learn more and get a copy of my latest book, The Center of Experience, from my website at theagile.world or on Amazon or other retailers. Until next week, stay agile.